Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Chris Martinez. I am the host of Operation Agency Freedom. And in this episode, this is the first of a three-part series on the three types of meetings that you must be running in your digital agency. And I know what you're thinking. I know that most people hate meetings. I typically hate meetings. But as a leader in your agency, getting your team together can be an absolutely magical opportunity to make sure that everybody on your team is moving in the right direction and they're moving towards the vision that you have established for the company. So, like most people, I used to suck at running my company and more specifically my company meetings. And then I figured it out. And there are three meetings, in my humble opinion, that you must be running in your digital agency. So if you struggle with running productive meetings, and productive is the key word there, and you want to get better at it, then you are absolutely going to love this episode. And as I mentioned, this is the first of a three-part series. And in each part, I'm going to cover one of those three meetings that you must be running. But in this specific one, I'm going to talk about why most meetings suck. I'm going to talk about how to be efficient in your meetings. And I'm going to talk about the one meeting that you need to run so that your team is always, and I mean always, hitting deadlines. So crucial that you hit deadlines as an agency. So at the end of this episode, as usual, make sure that you visit our website where you can find the show notes plus the links that I mentioned in the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you subscribe so that you are always the first to know when a new episode is being released. So let's head on over and listen to the full episode. All right, guys, I am very excited to talk about this topic. And it might sound ironic or kind of silly that I'm excited to talk about meetings because, you know, nobody really likes meetings for the most part. I remember when I was a team member working for somebody else, you know, they would have these weekly staff meetings and I'd be the one in the back of the room basically tuning out or on my phone the whole time. So I get it. I know what it's like to be on both sides. I also know what it's like to be a leader and you're running your meetings and you kind of feel like I'm supposed to run a meeting, but I don't necessarily know that I'm running a meeting or know why I'm running a meeting, or I don't know what to say. So this is the first in a three-part series where I'm going to talk to you guys about the three most important meetings that you need to run and specifically how to run them so that you get the most out of them. So the first question is, how is it that most people run your meeting? If you have a team, you can probably see the engaged people and the people who are just kind of like on the sidelines sleeping. And sometimes when you have engaged folks, they see the meeting as their opportunity to show how amazing they are. You know, it's like, they're like, I'm going to stand up and talk about all the great things that I'm doing to just kind of like show off. Then you have people that are tuned out, and then you have some people that are actually paying attention. And the real measure of whether or not the meeting is successful is, did they actually move the needle after the meeting? Did you guys get closer to the goal line? And are you guys moving in the direction of your vision for the company? If they are not, then I would say it's a great opportunity for you to learn how to run a more effective meeting, which I'm going to talk about today. So one of the main reasons why running meetings is so hard as an agency owner is that people don't understand the why, right? And here's a great test to see if people actually know what the company mission is. Get all your people together and just pass out a little like post-it note to everybody and give them 3 minutes and say, I want you to write down what is the company's mission. And you will be shocked as to what comes back most of the time. I know I was when the first time I ran this. Now I think that everybody understands the mission, but pass out those post-it notes, have everybody write down like, what do they think the mission is? You'll get a bunch of different answers, and that'll help you to gauge if they actually understand the why, you know, because your mission is tied to your why. If they don't understand the why, it's going to make your meetings a lot harder. They don't actually know what's the purpose. The other reason why meetings can be so hard is because they're inconsistent, right? So if you show up, first thing, if you do them at different times every day, or for whatever reason you have an excuse for why you're late or why you need to push the meeting back or whatever, automatically it's going to make your objective of running an effective meeting much, much harder. So if your meetings are inconsistent on the time, fix that. Secondly, is if it's inconsistent in terms of what you're going to cover, also much more difficult to convey the objective and for you to be able to get something productive out of that meeting with the folks. So I recommend same meeting, same topic, same format, same time and day every single time. Then people aren't figuring out what we're here for. They actually know, and they can just become engaged in what's actually being said. Another reason why meetings are so hard is that usually you're running the meeting too long. So if you're one who tends to talk and talk and talk, you're going to lose people just over time. So I'm going to talk about that, how to cut it down, and the ideal time for a meeting. And then the final reason why it's so hard is that you are actually trying to jam too much information into one meeting. Think of it from a marketing perspective, right? We don't have 50 different calls to action on a website, right? Because a confused mind does nothing. It's the same thing when you're doing your meetings. So you want to have a couple of bullet points, ideally just one thing that you want to get out of the meeting. So then people can just focus on that one thing and they're not tuning out, or they don't leave the meeting confused as to what they're actually supposed to do. So with that being said, let's get into meeting number 1. So the first meeting that you need to run every single day, in my opinion, is what we call a daily deadline meeting. And I'm going to walk through exactly what you do so you can kind of take this as a template and repurpose it for yourself if it makes sense. Or you can take aspects of what you like and then, tweak it so that it fits you guys. So with us, part of our company culture is that we are obsessed with hitting deadlines because we know the impact that our work has on our agency clients and on the end user. Like usually it's a small business, right? So if we're missing a deadline, not only does that hurt the relationship that dude has with the digital marketing agency who's hired us, but now the digital agency has egg on their face and they look bad in front of their clients, and their clients are also not able to hit whatever objective it is. So let's just say it's a lead generation campaign and we have to build out a landing page, or maybe they have a launch or something like that. If we don't hit the deadline, then the whole thing gets backed up and the small business owner is not able to meet their financial goals. And then it's just like this domino effect. So it hurts everybody. Everybody in our company, we've screened them so that they have this internal desire to want to help other people. It's actually, and unfortunately, a rare quality, especially with designers and developers. But we have a process where we go in and we are able to identify these folks, and we know that they understand that their work fits into a bigger picture, right? So we're obsessed with deadlines. Every single team member is obsessed with deadlines because we see the impact that missing a deadline has, as well as, when we hit a deadline and things go well. So we obsess about deadlines. And the one thing that we do every single morning is this daily deadline meeting. So at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, every single team has a meeting with every single team member on their pod, is what we call it. And so the pod leader, who's essentially like the quarterback for all the projects, they're the go-between between the agency client and the designers and the developers on the pod that are actually completing the work. The pod leader, we use a ticketing system. We use Freshdesk in case anybody's wondering what we use. And so the pod leader will bring up all the projects that are ongoing during that time period. So it can be anywhere from 10 to sometimes 40, 50 projects at any given time. And they have listed out the projects that are assigned to each individual designer or developer on their team. And it's also lists the deadline, and it lists the client and the title of the project, basically. So at 8:30 a.m., everybody gets on that call and we go through in a group setting all the deadlines that are coming up due. So we literally go through and we say, Javier, here's your assignment. Is this on track to hit the deadline? And then they say yes, or they say no. And we go through one by one and we say, are you on track? Are you on track? Are you on track? Are you on track? And if they say no, we don't stop the entire meeting and go through that issue right there. We wait until the very end of the call and we discuss it then. And I'll explain why we do that in a second. So we go through one by one with everybody and they talk about the deadlines. So that does two things, right? One, it makes them aware of the deadline, right? I would say that if you guys are hitting deadlines, there's probably a greater than 60% chance that the reason is that they just don't know that the deadline is coming up. When you think about it, people are in the work, they're in the weeds, they're doing their thing every single day. They forget, they're human beings. They're so focused on completing one project that they might have forgotten about another one in the deadline that's coming up. So one by one, they're going through, they're being held accountable for hitting the deadline and making sure that they are aware of the deadline. Now, the second thing is that it develops a culture of accountability, right? Because when you're in front of your peers, you do not want to be the one that's always missing deadlines or that is behind on deadlines. And so now we're showing everybody has to be in front of their peers and they have to say, I'm on track of my work. I'm hitting deadlines. I'm good to go. You don't have to worry about me. And that just reinforces like the team cohesion and everybody feels good. And, it keeps it's like a self accountability type of thing. The third thing that it does, and this is really, really important, is that it does give them a forum to say that they need help. And this is especially beneficial for newer team members who are scared of looking like the dumb one, right? So if you're on a call and somebody happens to be stuck in development, on a certain aspect of development, they have a forum where it's acceptable to say that I need some help. Okay. And that sends a message to everybody that like, hey, you don't have to be perfect. It's okay to ask for help. It doesn't mean that you're weak or stupid or that we're going to fire you. If you have trouble, you have a support team here. And it's not that you're dumb, you just don't know how to do it, right? Somebody on that team most likely has the answer and they can help coach you through. And so then, we get that problem resolved. And it's not like the 11th hour and then the person's like, yeah, I've been trying on this forever and I can't find the answer. And then we miss the deadline. So most times you do have to create a forum where people can ask for help, especially with new people. So the daily deadline meeting does all three of those things. One, keeps everybody accountable, make sure that they know that the deadline is coming up. It shows the team members that, they don't want to be the one who's missing deadlines. So again, that's another aspect of accountability. And the third one, it gives them a forum to ask questions and shows that it's okay to not have the answer. Okay. So we go through that meeting. And if you run the meeting the right way, it should take less than 10 minutes. Because it's literally yes, 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 right? Everybody should be on track for hitting their deadlines. Okay. If people are not hitting their deadlines, then you might have a process issue. And so that's something that you might want to address in a different meeting, not on this specific meeting. But every day we do that, okay? So the question then becomes, we run through that. What happens if somebody has a challenge and they say, no, I'm not on track to hit the deadline because I'm having this challenge, right? So like I mentioned, we save that to the end. Okay. We wait because if it's a development question, for example, I don't need all the designers to be there listening to how to solve that problem right now, right? If they want to stay on, they can stay on and listen and help. The reason why we save it to the end is that after we say, these are the specific things, or after the agent says, these are the specific things that I need help with, now somebody who might have an answer or somebody who might want to learn the answer has the option to stay later on the call. That is key. We give them the option to stay on and help their team member. It's not an obligation, and it's definitely not wasting anybody's time, right? So we run the entire meeting done in 10 minutes. And then whoever wants to stay can stay on and help that specific team member. Now think about what that does for your company culture. In our instance, we are constantly building a sense of camaraderie and teamwork and that we're a family and that we're here to help each other. We are not in competition with each other. If somebody doesn't know how to do something, it is expected of you to go in and help them, because one day you're not going to know something and you're going to want somebody to help you, right? We say, okay, whoever wants to stay on and help Javier with this challenge that he's having regarding X, Y, and Z, feel free to jump on or to stay on. Everybody else, you can leave if you like, right? So now those folks are able to get out of that meeting if they don't really need to be there, and they can go continue to do work. And those who are able to help Javier in this instance can actually stay on, and then they'll go through and they'll talk through the problem. They'll come up with a solution. Maybe they'll schedule a call where they can actually jump on a Zoom and go through it together and troubleshoot. So now the team is essentially solving the problem together, right? We don't have to bring in a manager usually. It's just the team members are helping each other. The problem is getting solved. We're usually able to get that project back on track so that we're able to hit that deadline. Or a worst case scenario, if there is a chance that we're going to miss the deadline, now the pod leader can go out to the client and say, hey, we ran into this snag. We know how to fix it. It did put us back a few hours. So it's a possibility. I know that we said that this was going to be ready on Thursday evening. It might be ready on Friday morning. I'll give you an update as soon as I know, but I just want to let you know so that you can go and reset the expectation with your client if that's necessary, right? That alone, resetting the expectations and letting people know what's going to happen or what could potentially happen will resolve so many customer service issues or potential complaints. And think about it like this, right? Like, I hate sitting in traffic. Like, it's just one of those things. My personality type, the fact that I grew up in LA and there's just traffic everywhere. I can't stand traffic. And the thing that drives me nuts is when we're sitting on the freeway and there's 6 lanes and everybody's stopped and there's no end in sight and I have no idea what's going on. Like, luckily now we have Google Maps, so I'll use my Google Map and I'll see, was there an accident? Is there just too many freaking people on the road? What is the issue? If I know why there is traffic, and if I can see when it lets up, my anxiety levels go way down. But if it just stretches on for miles, or let's just say hypothetically, I'm driving, I'm sitting in traffic, there's no cell phone reception, and I have no idea what's going on. And I don't know if I'm going to be stuck in this traffic jam for 5 hours or 15 minutes, right? That is when my blood gets boiling. And I'm sure you guys are listening and you're like, Chris, you need to go talk to your therapist again, which I agree. Yes, I do all the time. You all do too. But at the same time, there's a point there, right? So your clients are the same way. If they don't know, if they don't have the warning flash that says, hey, this is what happened and this is when you're going to get through it. If your clients don't know that, then they start to get really agitated and scared, and they might start making rash decisions. And so the easiest way to do that is just let them know, hey, we ran into this problem. Just giving you a heads up. Most likely we're going to be on track, but there is a small possibility that it's going to be on this date. I will keep you updated, but I feel like I have the obligation to just tell you so that you're not sitting around waiting, right? And I definitely don't want to do this at the last minute so that you're expecting something and it's not coming. That's the worst thing that you can do, by the way, is telling somebody it's on track, and it's on track. And then 15 minutes before it's supposed to be ready, you're like, well, actually, that's horrible. It's horrible for the client. It's horrible for you because it shows them that you don't know how to manage your time, and that also that you're just not very empathetic to their needs. So you never want to do that. But always in your meetings, you can avoid all these issues by just having those daily deadline meetings. So I will tell you, we started implementing this probably about 18 months to 2 years ago. And at first, some people were a little bit anti, right? They didn't want to go through this process. They're like, some people might see it as micromanagement, da, 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 da. Some of those people are no longer with us, obviously, because they weren't a good fit for our culture, our evolving culture. When they came in, it was a good fit. They just didn't grow with the company. That's okay. They moved on. Everything works better. Some of the other people who are anti, they just didn't see the bigger picture. So in that instance, I recognized that we needed to reteach our company culture and our core values and how this fits into the bigger picture and the mission. But most of the people, they saw the value in it. They really enjoyed the teamwork aspect of it and how they were connecting. And now people actually look forward to it. It's a time for them to get together every morning. And some meetings, we don't start off every meeting just going straight into the tickets and talking about the work. Sometimes we talk about something silly. And here's just a general rule. Every time you run a meeting, if it's a consistent, especially if it's a daily meeting, like this daily deadline meeting, every 5 meetings, do something fun. Ask something silly. Last week, I was listening to a book. I can't remember what the book was now. No, it was a podcast. That's what it was. It was a podcast. And they said it was a non-comedian teaching entrepreneurs how to inject humor into your meetings. It's kind of ironic, but what I took out of that is the importance of telling jokes and kind of how it came full circle. She said that there was a study that was done that showed that when people are 21 years or younger, they typically laugh every single day, right? A good laugh. For some reason in American culture, once you hit 22 and let's just say you're out of college and you're in the workforce, you get more serious and you stop laughing. So the percentage of people that laugh every day like hits the floor after you turn 22. So the argument was like, bring humor to your meetings, tell a joke or something like that. So I was like, oh, that's fun. So I went into my the daily deadline meeting, because I still sit in on some daily deadline meetings a few times a week. And I said, hey guys, I got a joke for you. And then I just listed off a few dad jokes. And then other people started to tell their jokes too. So that helps to break up the meeting so that it's not necessarily like the format is still the same. The expectations are the same. But the purpose of the meeting is the same. But I injected, 5 minutes of doing something a little bit different to keep people engaged. We've also done like icebreaker questions, right? So we ask them like, what's your favorite movie? Or like, what kind of kid were you? Or favorite ice cream flavor, or whatever. Like those little questions, it really does help to break up kind of like the monotony of running those meetings. And at the end of the day, we're still accomplishing what we need to with the mission or with that meeting. We're just doing it in a little bit different way, just to kind of spice things up a bit so people don't get bored. So ultimately, that is one of those meetings that you need to run. And in my opinion, you should do that daily. So like if you're doing a stand-up meeting now every day, one of the things that you need to integrate into that stand-up meeting, assuming that we're not overloading people with too much information. But one of the things that you need to integrate is talking about the daily deadlines and making sure that people are held accountable and that you're building a company culture around hitting deadlines. It's very, very important. I have yet to meet an agency whose success does not in some way hinge on hitting deadlines. Not only is hitting deadlines great for the customer experience, it's also good for you from a profitability standpoint, right? Because if projects are taking too long, then you're limiting your capacity to bring on other projects. So like when you bring on a project, hopefully you're looking at this project and you're saying like, okay, these are the estimated hours that things should take, right? And these are the dates that we can complete these things by. If you are hitting those dates, then you kind of know your capacity or your bandwidth with the team that you have. If you're missing deadlines, then that bandwidth shrinks because the existing projects that you've brought on are now taking longer, which means that you're paying people more to do those projects, right? So the profitability shrinks on those projects. And of course, we want to make money, right? So you have to manage those numbers. So the daily deadline meeting accomplishes multiple goals. And when we're looking at the ideal formats for running a meeting, it has an objective. It's done the same way every single time. It ties into the bigger why. It's short, should be done in 10 minutes or less. And from a company culture standpoint, it has all these other benefits. It brings people together, helps them stay accountable. They are building that teamwork and that cohesion. So that is the number one meeting that you need to be running every single day. If you're not running it, see how you can incorporate a daily deadline meeting into your meeting rotation or your stand-ups or however you call it. So that's meeting number one. Like I said, this is a 3-part series. So I will talk about the 2 other meetings that you must be running internally. It's going to help your agency grow. You're going to be able to get the most out of your team. You're going to be way more profitable. And at the end of the day, you are going to be a happier agency owner. Because let's face it, like, what's the point of doing this if we're not having fun and we're not happy? So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and ideally I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you could share it with your friends, family, and basically anyone who will find the same value in this episode that you did. And to get the latest from me, then let's definitely connect on social media. You can go to Facebook, facebook.com/Dude Agency, or Instagram @dudeagency.io, or you can check us out on YouTube on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, you can always visit our website at dudeagency.io, where you can see all of our other episodes of Operation Agency Freedom. You can also register for any live trainings that we have going on how to run a highly profitable agency. And of course, you can see how we help digital agencies with the people, the processes, and the education so that they can take on more projects and scale profitably. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.